Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Resurrected Between Two Pints. I've got my good friend David here with me again,
Hello.
right there to the wide. And so we talked about your badass film festival in the previous episode, and then we put jackets on to make it look like a serious amount of time yeah, there we go. See, yeah. But really, we're going to talk about because you mentioned you're actually plugging a feature right now, Stickman's Hollow.
Yes, that was a Generativity co-production with Illusion Lake Entertainment. It arose, you mentioned SNG last time, from a short, Clara, directed by Jack Cox, and developed into a feature, which we filmed last year all over BC, from the mudflats of Pitt Lake to outside of Nanaimo Forest there, to Kelowna, to the waters in an island off Lighthouse Park outside of West Vancouver. So it really was filmed all over Vancouver. A found footage feature film that I'd say I would call it Blair Witch meets Lake Mungo meets The Exorcist.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
Can't wait to watch it.
Great reviews in its world premiere last night in the UK.
And you mentioned it's going to be at the Badass Film Festival.
Yeah, the North American premiere is October 20th, 5 p.m. At Badass 10th Anniversary Festival at the Rio Theater.
And the Rio Theater is my favorite because it serves alcohol and grilled cheese sandwich, so I'm going to be probably half cut and ready to enjoy a found footage movie.
Yeah, the only theater that lets us have giant snakes, fire, and naked burlesque dancers.
This is your vibe, isn't it? You need that on like a business card.
Giant snakes, fire, naked burlesque.
So if the people watching didn't watch the previous episode, it came out of a Shits and Giggles, that's going to get us in trouble, but an SNG Film Fest, which is Joel McCarthy. It's a Vancouver fest, and it's I love it. It's so punk rock. It's what is, you're allowed a budget of $250, and all the gear has
SNG,
and you have to have all the gear has to fit in the back of a Toyota Prius.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's I did one a couple years ago called Milkshakes. You can check out on my YouTube channel.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, no, and we actually the whole goal
intolerance.
the whole goal of that was we wanted to do an entirely 80-yard movie where like even the sound effects were like human vocals. So like creaking of the floor was just somebody like making creaking sounds.
Fun.
But yeah, so you said that Stickman's Hollow came from an SNG script or an SNG short.
Yeah, it was that team. They made a short called Clara. Again, I guess the low budget favored a kind of a found footage approach, and it was based as the writer director Jack Cox has talked about, a missing girl camping story that happened when he was young, and in this case it was film the start of the feature, and in fact the short was just a 5-minute version of what happened to the initial family.
So that's really neat. So okay, so they made the short film, they got it in SNG.
Yeah, that's right.
And you saw that, and then what happened?
Well, developed and
did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? Like,
oh yeah, we
met
at SNG and talked about collaborating, had for the meetings and then planning and then development, and then shot it spring and summer last year.
Now, how did you get a budget for that? Because like I make a lot of indie films with my friends, but like I mean, if people watching can see, like I own all my own lights and a Blackmagic camera, but like how did they get the money, and what, like if you can talk about what the budget was and like.
Yeah, well, when we're selling it, we actually don't talk about the budget.
Okay.
Because we found that
yeah, no, I understand.
People might pay less for it.
But was it, did you get grants? Did you help fund it? Did they bring in some money?
Yes to two of those three. Funding is, again, in the low budget area, it's usually ones that might involve public funding. Our biggest Generativity production was Kicking Blood, which was about $1.1 million, but $1 million of it was all public funding. Ontario Creates and the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund, where we had to film in Sudbury. So either public funding covers the majority of it, and again, same with the evilness that we talked about last time as well, or we just self-fund the whole thing.
Right.
Sometimes with other, and they're all working professionals that also put some money in it and just fund the whole thing ourselves.
So you mentioned the public funding. Have you written grants?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
How
applying for funding endlessly?
Isn't that hell? Like, isn't writing grants really hard?
Well, I had an academic background. We used to write grants all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but some ways the same. You get feedback. I probably spent 5 years getting the funding. Well, no, 3 years getting funding for the one I mentioned earlier.
So would you like submit a grant and then they'd be like, no, change this, or no, we didn't like that? And then
sometimes you wouldn't get any feedback at all. But yeah, then you'd get some feedback, and the next time you do it,
So you may not know this, but because like only camera nerds know this, like what camera was the Stickman Hollow filmed on? Do you know any of the details of like the cinematography? I know
Um,
you're probably totally not don't know these things, but I
yeah, well,
have to ask.
and yeah, a lot of it was on the small handhelds that
Okay.
make it look like the devices that initially the family and then the couple and then the
Ah,
priest were filming on. In fact, there's one shot of the young priest and a bigger priest, well, or an old priest, at one point, and you don't really see the young priest because he's filming it, but you see him in a shot in the mirror where you see him with in that case,
and it's actually oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Cool. And then how long did it take for editing that? So, oh, sorry, how long was it shooting? Did you guys like shoot and edit and shoot, or like how did the actual production of the movie go?
Well, it was shot in mostly in the spring and summer last year.
Right.
They did some other shots, like the boat shots were shot a bit later, and then there's some pickups, especially the apartment scenes. They did some pickups up until and doing post. Um, and through the summer, we had the first cast screenings and sending out to festivals, and the first festivals it's got into.
Yeah, and you mentioned it actually premiered in England recently.
That's right. Yeah, at the Dead Northern Festival in York, where they had a special. It kicked off the beginning of the festival weekend with a found footage horror, where they had a panel, the world premiere of our film, and then they had the anniversary screening of the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, that's very because you already said it's basically like Blair Witch meets Lake Mungo, and oh, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
and The Exorcist, because there's definitely a supernatural element in it.
See, that's what sells me immediately.
Mhm,
I don't really like true crime, like real
mhm.
serial killers. I really need stuff that's not real because I go to movies to escape.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of things to chew on. It's not all telegraphed. So
Okay.
it'd be interesting once you've seen it to talk about what you think's happening and.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know you're always up to something because you actually said you're shooting a feature right now as well.
Yeah, with Whispering Pines production and some people from LA, as well as some top notch folks in Vancouver. Matt Kinesis, Gabe Carter, Nido is producing this.
Oh,
Nido's also,
and yeah, she's actually one of the hosts of the Badass film.
yeah, she's also does a great job in a short that we're showing called the Sorrow, as well. It's ending the festival as well, and she's a producer of Sawtooth Mountain, which is a feature currently in production in we've got a great property in Pitt Meadows, BC, that has some of the woods, some great cabins, good surrounding area, and we're about 2/3 into production as we speak, and it's wrapping up in early October.
Wow. So how many days of production would that be total?
I think we
Rough
had we had 16, and then
16
probably some pickups and
for a
stuff later.
feature.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this one's not going to be found footage.
Oh no, it's got fancy red cameras. Yeah, it
Ooh.
looks beautiful.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
And then can you? So how did you get involved in this project?
Oh, well, I had, EP'd, 2 of, Nee, who's a local actor who's getting into production, 2 of the films that she produced, Jeffrey and The Sorrow.
Jeffrey, that was a big winner
Run and
last
Gun
year.
winner last year, and
Yeah.
is now an expanded version. Is also going to, festivals and pitching for a series or feature as we speak. And then, actually, they it was funny. Gabriel and Matt, the director, kind of approached me actually at Badass 9 last year. I couldn't give them full attention because
You're
somebody sat on the snakes backstage, and I had a little bit of an issue to deal with. But we set up a meeting to talk, and then they pitch, and then fantastic script, really kind of unique one. It's sort of a bit of a caper, bit of a slasher, bit of a cryptid. It's two brothers that run kind of a dodgy um, outdoor Bigfoot tour, where well, I can't give, I'm not going to give too much away. And then some sexy young people come by and get bust, and then things happen. It's quite exciting. Really clever script. We've got some great talent from LA, Sydney, Scotia. Irene from Trick or Treat. Lots of Gabriel, of course. Uh, and then yeah, we even have we've already got the pre-sales and sales agents attached. They're doing the EPK even as we're shooting, which is something I haven't done before.
wow. So you
That's with pop alternative people, and then yeah,
so like BTS on set and like
yeah, you
interviews.
bet,
Oh wow, that sounds like a lot of
yeah,
fun.
yeah. So we're kind of getting the marketing going even as we're in production, so they can really hit the ground running.
Yeah, no, that sounds super exciting. I'm really excited to hear about that. I guess is there can you direct people to like websites or social media accounts for this new one? Or no, wait, we were talking about Stickman's Hollow.
Yeah, well, it's sites for each of those films.
Yeah.
I mean, they're described a little bit. You can get kind of a rundown. Generativity Productions does have kind of a what you can always tell when the studio's involved. Sometimes things are embargoed. So when it's LA people, so the Sawtooth Mountain's a little bit limited. But we have a list of every project that's sort of in development, in production, ones that we're getting to the fest circuit, ones that we're selling, ones that we made years ago and we keep selling, which there's some of those.
So how does I know that you probably can't share some of the special sauce, but like
Mhm.
I've made a lot of films, but I've never made any money on them.
Mhm.
Like theoretically, say I go out with my friends and we film a fantasy version of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place next year.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, no, and that's actually happening. We're shooting some test footage tomorrow. But like,
Yeah.
like what do you do if like I like, hey David, I've got this like 3 hour thing. Like, do you what do you do with that when you have a film done?
Well, nowadays there are a few more options. I mean, it used to be 5, 10 years ago, we're kind of beholden to certain distributors buying it and usually giving terrible back end deals where they would end up selling, 20 features in a package to different territories in a way that designed that they wouldn't pay a cent to any of the filmmakers, and then filmmaker never makes any money and never makes another film again. At least now there is an option, especially for the ultra low budget or no budget productions, where you can almost self distribute through Indie Rights or Film Hub. And in the horror genre space, you can get that onto Tubi and get some AVOD money from that.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then like, I mean, what kind of money are we talking? Hundreds, thousands?
Sometimes, if you asked me last quarter, I'd say it was a lot of projects doing quite well in that area. Um, per certain number of thousand of the ad views uh, during your film, or even they have some series as well, where it could be several thousand a month for some old projects. I mean,
Wow.
not much money. I can make a
No, but I know if
$500,000 budget back on that. But
no,
if
but
you
with
made it for very little money or public money, and you doesn't have to pay it back, and it's just but you have to kind of keep promoting them too, and that
yeah.
seems to make a difference
Hmm.
in viewership. Although they seem to be there's something going on with Film Hub and Tubi lately that just when you've had it figured out, it seems to be
Changing.
shifting a little bit. But maybe we'll.
But then I've heard a lot of rumblings with like a lot of studios and like Netflix and stuff. They're not producing as much, and people
Yeah.
are saying they're going to be really hungry for already produced stuff in the next year or two. Have you heard anything about that?
Oh, possibly. I mean, the dream is to get make a huge splash at a festival or something and get like a bidding war with the streamers, which sort of happened a little bit in a minor way with Kicking Blood. But the big streamers still usually, unless it's has big stars or something, they still really lowball filmmakers in terms of if they see it at all.
Right. Huh. Well, that's interesting. So we were talking about Stickman's Hollow, which is premiering at Badass Film
The
Fest.
North American premiere is at
Yeah,
Badass.
yeah. And if you're watching right now, you should totally. This will be up before Badass. You should check it out. But if they've missed it, and this is after October 20th,
Yeah.
where do you think they'll be able to see it?
Well, everything. I'll have a fest run. I guess it depends on who buys it and what happens then. But Stickman's Hollow movie is the site and the Instagram handle for information about that film.
And then of
Well,
course
there'll be some at Generativity Productions as well.
yeah. So generativityproductions.com.
Well, in the David Generativity or Generativity Productions in social media.
Okay. All right. So we'll put some links below. But like, this sounds really great. You should totally check these out. And thanks for joining me again, David.
Oh, my pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks for the beer. Cheers.
All right. Let's finish these off.
All right.